Hello everyone and welcome to the 13th installment of the Turf Battles New Client Development Diaries. Um, I don't know if everyone has been kind of keeping up with what we've been saying on the Discord, but today at the end of this video we're kind of going to go over what we're currently doing, maybe things that you don't see, as well as what is left to do before the client and server, and that's not a new server, that's the existing server, is released um, into a beta state. We ideally will give you a date that we're planning on launching. That date is not still set in stone, but based off of what we were looking at in terms of what's left, it will be fairly accurate. But we'll go into more detail with that later on in the video. Okay, so the first thing that I kind of wanted to show off that was added was the trading system. We just finished adding that, and again, this is just a re-implementation of existing content or existing functionality that wasn't working with this client quite yet. But basically, I've asked to trade on a different character, and I just hit accept, and now that pop-up window did come up. And on that other character, I just threw in some gems. You'll notice that I did all the gems at once, so multiple items, not one by one. I could have done one by one, which I'll do right here, and that works perfectly fine. These items are locked, so of course that means they will not be able to be traded. As soon as you do try, it does say the item is locked and cannot be traded. But you can trade pretty much anything you want. You can enter Lenny amount, if I have Lenny, which I do. Let's go ahead and enter 500 million. And then I'll enter some on the other side just so you guys can see that that's working as well. We'll do a significantly less amount there. We'll do 10,000. Cool. So yeah, we can then hit trade. You don't see this, but on my other screen I am seeing a little trade icon around right here that's flashing, and that just indicates that the trade was accepted by that player. In our case, we're the person that hit trade, so we're seeing it here. If we hit it again, it cancels that accept notifier, so that if they do hit accept, like I just did, it doesn't actually accept the trade yet. But similarly, I think if you add an item, let me just cancel that trade. If you add an item after having already hit accept, that will kind of refresh the accept state and it will no longer be accepted. But if you go ahead and hit trade, I'm going to be getting a sorcery gem and a clonium gem, and it's just going to pop up here and here, as well as 10,000 Lenny, which should just change that number right there for us. So we'll go ahead and hit trade. And then I'll hit trade on the other character. Bam, the trade was accepted. There's our sorcery gem, there's our clonium gem, and that character did change to indicate that we got that 10,000 Lenny. And looking at the other account, I got the items as well. I'll just go ahead and drop those just so I can pick them back up. And you'll see that these items are appearing in red. That's because the player just dropped it. In the current version of Turf Battles, this only happens when an item is dropped from a monster. But we decided to do this for players as well, just because we have got a bunch of situations where players accidentally dropped an item. They didn't realize right away or before another player, and then another player picked it up before they could. So this way you have a little bit of time. If you accidentally drop it, it'll pick it up. Or sorry, you can pick it up. And there's just the item that we traded. You might also be noticing that I'm wearing Vice equipment. In the previous live server update, we did change the Vice equipment a little bit. That change has already been ported over to the server. As you can see at the bottom of the Vice set, it does have that 6 set item bonus, which basically just prevents you from taking poison damage well inside of Catastrophic Cavern. Similarly, you can block a person's trades. As soon as they're blocked, it'll notify you, and then they can no longer ask to trade you. For example, I'm asking to trade right now on the other character, and it just isn't working. Then you can just click Allow Trade if you want to unblock that person. And then if I try to trade them, there we go. There's the pop-up. And there's the trade window again. Okay. Yeah, that was a pretty quick piece of functionality to demonstrate another feature that we were working on that actually took us quite a bit longer than I would have hoped was the help system. I'm not gonna go over every single kind of guide here just because it'll take forever. I will click on each one just so you guys can see it. But basically, a part of why this took so long is because the original system didn't allow for proper display of information as well as images. So basically, how it was working was you'd have your image, and you were only allowed to have one image, and that image would have to be at the top. Now we've changed it where you can have as many images as we want. We can position them a certain way, we can center them, and it's relatively easy to actually style that. But that was something that wasn't working before. So in these files, they are in readable text, so players are able to change them if they like. They are going to be part of the patch server though, so once you do try to start the game, they will update. But for example, if you are part of the Asian community, you would like to have your own text appear, like your own versions that are translated, you can just supply us with those files or those translations, and we can update that for you. And once I get somewhere that kind of is something I want to explain, I'll just stop and pause because there are some additional comments that we made here that I kind of wanted to go over. But right now we're just quickly going over everything. And if there is something you guys kind of just want to read, you can just pause it and read. Another reason why this took so long is because a lot of these guides we actually had to write or rewrite because the current live server version is inaccurate with the current state of the game. So we were rewriting those. As well, we added additional guides that don't exist in the current version. This was a cool one that we made. Basically, it describes what each gem does for each item, which is something that we didn't have in the current version. So it's nice to have for new players, especially to see what they are and what they do. And of course, the gem shard system, which wasn't even actually mentioned on the live server or the website as of yet, but it just gives you a brief overview of what shards are and how to obtain them. Okay, so next we have the instance system. I'm going to talk a little bit more about this later on because this is one of the things that we do want to do a little bit more work on. But basically, these are the new instance coins. Their design might change because this is just a color variant of the current instance coin. And as you can see with some of them, they didn't look quite as good as the original. So we might change those a bit, but that's what they look like right now. And for each instance, the guide is basically just where is it, how much is it going to cost to get in, the name of the instance, and the level requirements for each instance. And then for something like Frozen Land as well as Catastrophe Room, there's just a little bit of extra information here because there is a kind of special um, feature for it or a special requirement. And in this case, it's you have to be part of the winning nation. And in this case, it's for the Triumph server right now only, not the Mystic server. Just a brief overview of all the current events that we have. I believe I listed them all. The ones that we didn't list are the ones where you have to kill a certain amount of monsters before a monster spawns, just because it's not really an event, it's more so a triggered piece of functionality, or a conditional piece of functionality. Okay, this is actually one of the things that we wanted to talk about, and I'm going to kind of demonstrate that after I show the help guide. But if you've already started reading right about here, we actually made changes to how the Frozen Land system works in terms of registering for your nation. I know a lot of players kind of have always been frustrated about how the nation registration system works just because sometimes they do miss out on FL because they forgot to register for a nation or because the nation reset happened and they didn't log on in time before the next FL war. But basically, we've changed it so instead of every 50 wars it resets, now it's every 30 wars it resets. But this number isn't a global number. Currently, it's every 50 wars, everybody's nation resets. This one is every 30 wars after you register, your nation resets. Um, Now, the key difference here is you can actually refresh your registration after 21 days have passed, so when there's 9 days left, and the game will actually tell you when you log in that you have X days left before you're kind of removed from the nation system. And then finally, once the 30th war ends, then you'll no longer be part of the registration system or the nation system. But I'll talk a little bit more about that when I go demonstrate it. Where was I? How? Civil War. Catastrophic Cavern. And just the weekend buff events. Cool. Yeah, so that just took a lot longer just because we had to actually rewrite stuff as well as make it so we can display images and text how we'd like. I'm sure you noticed how the actual font here is different from the other font as well as any other font in the game. That's one of the things as well. Okay, just walking over to the Frozen Land crystals so I can kind of show the new nation registration system. Okay, so just like before, you have your nation registrations NPCs. They're also named the nation registrar. There's one in Veros as well as one in Latianus, which is where we are right now. When you click it, you already see there's some differences. For example, we added this description kind of explaining how it works. It's pretty much identical, not identical, but similar to the help guide. But basically, it just says you're registered for 30 wars. After 21 wars, you're able to re-register, which refreshes that, so you're signed up for another 30 wars. And then if you don't re-register within those 30 wars, you will be removed from the nation event content, or sorry, the nation content. But basically, I'll hit yes, sign me up, and I got a message. You already signed up for the Frozen Land War. You can re-register after 9 more wars. So that's because I've already been registered for a certain amount of wars. I'm going to hit pause on this video just so I can remove myself from the that system. So I was actually going to remove myself from the system by banning myself from it. I know it's a little confusing, but basically I just did want to show that we do still have the ability to ban players from nation content. So for whatever reason that is necessary, I'm not 100% sure why that would be necessary at this point. unless it's something wild like something to do with the actual FL war, where you're using a character in another nation to spy on the others or something like that. But basically, some kind of unfair gameplay um, that you just shouldn't be doing, I guess. But basically, I've been unregistered and banned from the nation content for 3 days. And if I try to sign up while doing this, it says you're still banned for that amount of time. Okay, I've just unbanned myself, and now I should be uh, kind of unregistered from the nation content. Well, not kind of, I should be. So if I go ahead and hit sign me up now, it says I am registered for nation-based content now. Awesome. And then if I try to sign up again, bam, I have to wait for 9 more wars. Actually, that shouldn't say 9 more wars. That should say 21 more wars there. So that's an issue I'll have to fix. I'm just going to pause the video so I can write that down. Okay, so I removed, I made a comment to that to fix it. But basically it'll say 21 more wars, whereas now it says 9. Something else you might have noticed right there is that there's no more unregister button. We made the choice to remove that option. If you register, you're registered for those 30 wars, which translates to about 10 days, depending on what time of day you do register. But that's because we didn't want to allow players to unregister, kind of skip that wait period of 9 or more wars, and then re-register. But I'm pretty sure that's not something that will affect most players. So I'm going to pause the video for a sec. Okay, I just paused the video just so I could start the FL war. I'm not sure if I have demonstrated this. I think I actually already have, so I might just cycle through it really fast. Okay. So I just turned on my really fast move speed. And we need to go up here. I just kind of want to show that the guards are there and that we can kill it and that the war does end. I think I may have shown this, but we've gone through, I think I said 12 videos so far. So it gets kind of hard to keep track of everything we've done, or at least everything that we've shown off. So there's the Varus Queen. I have really high strength, so I'm just going to one-hit it. There's my AP. And then we're just running to the next queen, or a guard. And there we go. The war is over. The Lad Nation won the war. So now I will be able to do the Frozen Land event. Something that I didn't mention here was that all these events actually show the event times, so when the event is supposed to happen, in terms of the server's time, which is GMT +1. So for example, the soccer event starts at midnight, and then also at 2 p.m. Similarly, the FL War, which we were just in, or the Nation War, starts at 1 a.m., 9 a.m., and then at 5 p.m. Okay, so yeah, that's kind of everything that we want to show today. But like I said at the start of the video, we did kind of want to talk about what's left to do. I'm just pulling up a document that I had open to kind of list everything off. Sorry, one sec. Okay, so I'll just quickly go over what's kind of ongoing. Of course, because we didn't demonstrate it, one thing that is ongoing still is the monster system changes, specifically the pathfinding. We did make a bunch of changes to it recently, but there are still some minor issues. For example, we noticed that in certain areas in Delpharoth, if you kind of kiss the wall like this, then the monster actually stops chasing you, but you are still able to attack them, and they cannot attack you. So that's something that we're fixing right now, but that should be finished soon. As well, we mentioned in earlier videos that we're working on an administrative tool that's also being worked on at the same time as this. We're kind of doing some last minute quality of life changes to the launcher that basically will just kind of speed up the verification process of patching your client if needed. We notice that right now it is a little bit slower than we'd like, so that's something we're fixing. There are some changes that we would like to make, but we've kind of categorized them as changes that we can make during the beta instead of delaying that beta because of them. Primarily, this is the rework of the level 1 to 200 content, including East Latianus. We want to rework essentially how EXP works in terms of solo leveling so that players can progress a little bit faster than they are right now, so that it makes more sense. We also want to do the same for drops. I know most people say right now you find a lot of trash in higher level content, or in other words, you find a lot of low level gear in high level content. So that's something we kind of want to change as well. We want to make it more defined that this is where you go if you want item A, or this is where you go if you want item B, kind of thing. But again, that's something that we feel we can wait and we can do it during the beta. So we're delaying that till then. It won't delay the beta. Some other things that we do have to fix are some minor issues. For example, the pet selection screen. We noticed that if you have a pet out and it gets hungry while you have another pet selected, all this updates based off of this pet. So that's something we have to fix. Something that we haven't kind of finished yet is actually adding the instance stores to each different instance and kind of deciding what we actually want to add there. This kind of ties into the rework for levels 1 to 200 just because of picking what items go in there. So that might be something we actually do push to do during the beta, thinking about it now. Another big thing that we do want to do is the event shared EXP. So we've mentioned this in the past where we want, for example, Howe Island, where that's a nation-based area that isn't instanced. We want that to allow everyone in the same nation to receive EXP if they are within range of a monster being killed by a member of their nation. So for example, if someone in Lad Nation isn't in the party, as long as they're within viewing range of the party, they'll still get EXP. The other big thing, and quite possibly the last bit of actual re-implemented functionality that we need to do, is the booth system. Right now it's not working. I'm hitting Control O, it's not even popping up, so that's something we have to re-implement. Like I just said, I think that is the last bit of content that we have to re-implement from scratch. I tried to think of other things that haven't been re-implemented, but I think that's the only thing left in terms of that. So that's probably going to be the next kind of goal for the next video update. So that should be done soon, or within the next 2 weeks. Similarly, we want to spend a little bit more time on the level 12 items. I don't have any in my inventory, but basically we want to rework them so that they use the same system as the Clonium system. We found that a lot of players did really enjoy how we made it so it is 4 stats, but they are 4 non-random stats. You always get the same 4 stats no matter which item, which gem you use or which sorcery gem you use or magic or whatever. You always get the same 4 stats. They're perfect stats. So we need to re-implement that with G12s, and as well we would like to make it easier to craft. So that does also include converting existing crafting items on the Triumphus server into whatever new crafting material we make for level 12s. So for example, currently Clonium equipment is crafted using Clonium Liquid and as well Clonium Essence. So that's something that we kind of want to reproduce where you don't have to collect 10, 15 of different materials. You just collect that one thing, and it's much easier and much less confusing for players as well as for the system itself. Sorry if I'm going over this really fast. It's just this video is already at 25 minutes, and I want to get through it all. Another thing that we did want to add was the subscription interface that basically allows you to control whether or not you benefit from certain subscription effects. For example, picking up items automatically, like materials. Some people have voiced that they don't want that on all the time, so that might be something that is on that interface. There are a couple other issues. For example, stack size showing. I don't have an item here. One sec. Okay, so for example, the stack size of certain items aren't appearing properly. For example, this is a turf check scroll, and as you can see, it has a -1 stack size. That's something that it's relatively easy to fix. We just haven't got around to it yet. There are some very minor changes that we want to make to the donation system. Currently, right now, if you have something in the mailbox, it lasts forever. Unfortunately, this is very daunting on the database. We found that because of this, startup times and things like that are much longer than they need to be, and a lot of the times these items aren't exactly worthwhile items. For example, if you were to pick up raw materials while your inventory was full, they go to your mailbox and you have a million entries of multiple different quantities. So we kind of want to be able to merge items together if they're of the same type. So you have different stack sizes or different quantities of an item, and then you can just accept them all at the same time. Similarly, we are considering adding a kind of expiration timer for items where after, say, 90 days, which is a very long time, if you still have items in the mailbox, they do expire and they're removed. Something like that, I know people start saying, oh, but what if I have items there and I don't play for 3 months? We can incorporate something where they're moved to just a different table that isn't accessed, or sorry, a different database, in case you guys don't know much about database programming, but basically it'll be moved to somewhere else that isn't loaded every time the game starts. So instead, if you do have an item that you think was in the mailbox and it was expired, we could restore it by looking at that other database. Yeah, so that's everything that is left to do before we enter into a beta. And again, I want to clarify that is entering into a beta, not actually release mode yet or a release date yet. But we do estimate that all these changes will probably take anywhere from a month to a month and a half. So we could be launching into beta testing for this client as early as April 1st, which is exciting, but also it could be any time around April 15th or around that date. And again, this is still isn't a for sure date. This is what we think will happen. There's not much left to do, as like I just described, but that is when we think we will be able to get everything done by, somewhere in that kind of timeline. So that's exciting. I hope everyone's excited about that. Sorry, I know that there's a lot of talking about what's kind of left there, but I just wanted to give everyone an idea of what's going on there. Oh, and something I also didn't mention was the mage rework. That is something we still have to do. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you're excited that we're getting very close to releasing and get to a point where everyone can actually try out the game. So kind of see all this work come into fruition. So yeah, hope you enjoyed the video, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.